Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing a contentious debate. Today we'll be speaking about Egypt's participation in the 16th Francophone Summit. Of course, this participation comes in light of the international leading role it is interested in, and as well as participating in the international forums and gatherings. Of course, today we'll be discussing the attendance of the President's Assistant for National Projects, Ibrahim Mahlab, participation on behalf of Egypt, of course, and who is leading the Egyptian delegation to this important summit. Of course, the significance and objectives of the Francophone organization and this particular summit, Egypt's participation and the role it plays in the field of peacekeeping and fighting terrorism and much more we will be discussing throughout our episode of today, later on in our show. Before on with our discussion, let me first take a headline, but this time not a headline or a top news, but rather a headline of what people in Egypt has been speaking about for 2 days now. And people have been very much outraged because of some of the falsified reports and fabricated films that are being put or broadcast through some of the media channels. I'm not speaking about a certain channel, but I'm speaking about false and fabricated information that are being given in the form of reports, in the form of films, and whatsoever. How could we put a strategy in order to be able to confront this issue? How professional those channels are? Let me speak frankly, we're not speaking just about the satellite channels or the TV channels, or we're speaking about the digital one, we're speaking about the social networks, and we're speaking about the onlines, the written articles and others. All these are sources of information for people in Egypt and outside. Of course, all these should be reliable sources of information. Now, if we chose to speak about this issue, then we are speaking from the perspective of professionalism. What criteria should those channels be holding? How are they are supposed to be reliable resources? Are there resources in the first place? What kind of objective media do they present? How credible are they if they submit fabricated and false information through their own channel to the public, and they are well known to be very reachable outside? I guess to highlight the issue, I have with me over the phone Dr. Magda Begnaid, Professor of Economics, or rather Professor of Communication. Dr. Begnaid.
Hello, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Dr. Magda. And we're speaking about recently, and particularly since 2 days ago, and there has been, or the Egyptians have been very much outraged with the false and fabricated, and even if we can call it paid actors films that are being made against
Egypt.
Important institutions in Egypt. And let me ask you about the professionalism of such reports or of such films, or if we can call it films, the objectivity and the message. And do they have hidden agenda? Because it's abnormal that you broadcast something that has no meaning and completely fabricated. Please.
Well, first of all, let me tell you something before I speak about the media. It's a direct interference in another country's business. Especially, you know that we're talking about the Egyptian army, which is well known to be one of the strongest in our area in the Middle East. So, number one, it's an interference. Number two, who are they to talk about us, whoever that country is, whatever that channel? Credibility, I personally did not watch that movie or that film.
We're not speaking
I read a lot about it, and I talked to many, specialized heard lots of people commenting about it. Excuse me?
Yes, we're not speaking about a certain channel.
Anyway, the problem is it's not professional, number one. Okay, I can't hear. Could you raise your voice? Could you please raise your voice?
I didn't say anything. I'm just listening to you.
Okay. Anyway, because maybe I'm watching you on television, but the speech is not there. I did not open the sound. I'm just answering to your question through the phone. It's not professional. It's an old film. The film is not new. And when you present something like a documentary, you have to bring facts, but do not bring one side and talk about it negatively, because sometimes you can have the film is stronger and sometimes the words are stronger. It's the way you present the issue itself. I can show you any film, and I say these are the Egyptian army, say, and then the picture is not that good. And then, or it could be good, and then the wording itself is bad. You know what I want? You're giving an image, you're giving a stereotype, you're trying to say that these people are being forced or whatever it is. But when we're talking about an army...
No, Dr. Begneed, I truly do not want to speak about a particular issue. I'm speaking about the credibility of such channels, or of such online, or of such...
No, you don't have to watch this, because there's no credibility here. No credibility.
What is credibility of media built on?
Well, you have to have sources, you have to have documents. When I talk about something like that, and I know if I do not have any idea, reading false information about another country. This is it. Unless you have credible sources that tells you this and documented, then I can believe. But if you show anything without any documentation, anybody can say anything.
Yes,
and that's dangerous by itself.
Exactly. Then, if I may ask you about the objectivity of reports as such. And do they represent the kind of media that we need in our world today? And how would this reflect on the credibility of a channel or a newspaper, an online agency, whatsoever? How does this reflect on its credibility, even if it was very much reachable outside?
Unless you have something to prove, to tell people to understand what is going on. Objectivity is kind of difficult to reach. Now, they are not presenting anything with any objectivity, because if people do not know what is going on, then they can take like bait, that they can take it. Documentation is very important. Otherwise, it's false information. This is it. And then you have to present the two sides of an issue. If what you're saying is true, prove it. Talk to people, bring us people, faces on camera and on television that say certain points to prove to us what is going on is correct. Because you can color the news, you can change the news, you can bring some information and cut part of it, and all of this is kind of false information. This is very important. But people who do not know, they might take it. So this is the point, which is there is no truth and there is no credibility. And how journalists basically have to present the truth and two sides of the coin, but not talk about it. This is the main idea. So I shouldn't believe in what I'm saying without giving me enough information to tell me that this is the truth. Today, with the social media, is another problem. You can put anything and it's not true, And anybody can say anything about anything, This is politics. Aside from this, especially it's sensitive more. But when you read and when you watch, especially social media, many things after a while they say, sorry, the main source, we did not put that kind of information. This is false information.
How would media as such be a reliable source of information if they were proven untrue in their stories more than once?
Okay, I'll tell you. If somebody is presenting false information, if this is a station, for instance, and presenting information to the people which proved later to be wrong. At least they should take the license, the channel should be stopped, and maybe some of the person presenting it, whether the reporter or the producer or whatever, they would be fired, out of business.
Yes.
Because it's not respectable. You're presenting false information, and when I'm talking about false information, you're talking about something serious. You're coloring the news, you're changing the facts. This is something too serious to be taken that easy.
Let go the message in between lines. Dr. Magda Begni, Professor of Communication, we thank you very much for being with us. Let me say that our media, or the media we have learned so far, was always built on truth, factual, objective professionalism. We give the piece of information, even if we are late, but we give the very true piece of information. This is what we learned in our career. Getting back to what we were speaking about, and let me take you back to the Francophone Summit, or the 16th Francophone Summit, and Mahlab leads Egypt's delegation to the Francophone Summit. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
The President's Assistant for National Projects, Ibrahim Mahlab, said that Egypt is offering grants for African students of Senghor University, which is sponsored by International Organization of the Francophonie. The grants are funded by the Egypt Partnership Agency for Development. Mahlab's remarks came during his speech before the 16th Francophonie Summit, which wrapped up Sunday in the capital of Madagascar and was held under the theme Shared Growth and Responsible Development Conditions for Stability Around the World and Within the Francophonie. Mahlab, who is leading Egypt's delegation to the summit, also highlighted in his speech the steps taken to achieve sustainable development and spoke about the initiative put forward by Egypt during its presidency of the Security Council in May 2016 about the crystallizing an international framework for dismantling ideologies adopted by terrorist groups and facing the spread of these ideologies among all people categories, especially the youth. He also called on the organization's member states to the nomination of Mrs. Mushira Khattab for the position of the UNESCO Director General. At the inauguration of the two-day summit on Saturday, a minute of silence was observed by the participants as a gratitude for late Boutros Ghali's role, who had served as the first Secretary General of La Francophonie. Mahlab added that the Francophonie Observatory for Peacekeeping Operations, which will be launched in Brussels by the end of this year, will be named after Boutros Ghali.